Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Hupp, and I have a very special guest with me today. Whitney Erwin is the founder and a practitioner at Four Seasons Harmony Holistic Health, Healing, and Ayurveda. So welcome, Whitney. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm very excited to be here and with your community.
Thank you. So you are a clinical herbalist and you practice Ayurveda. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started down this path? What interests you? What led you down this path?
Yes, well, I am a nature lover through and through, and through my love of learning about the natural world and healing sciences and working on a lot of different permacultural and organic farms when I was younger, I just immensely fell in love with plants and natural healing. And I was so curious about what more there might be beyond some like very basic things you might find in stores or teas. And so it's very much, my heart leading a lot of my outward service work now professionally, and then going through a lot of struggles myself with health and looking for answers and finding so much of what was truly aligned with my values and matched what I had already been doing for a long time with my yogic practices, felt very ethical and congruent. And it's been, let's see, 9 years of full-time practice with Four Seasons Harmony, and never a dull moment. I love what I do, and I bring as much Ayurveda and clinical herbal medicine as I can into all of the work that I do with women.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how we're both nature lovers. And I just think that something about the natural world is just so grounding and so naturally healing.
Absolutely. I mean, just this afternoon, I had a busy day with sessions, and I was so excited about this. And I was like, I need to just ground outside. I actually put this large, mat outside, and I laid in Shavasana for 10 minutes. And it's just like, I felt like there was a recharge and a reboot. So I love birthing practices. I find they really work. And Ayurveda has this really exquisite system too, that takes that into account and like teaches people how to live in harmony with nature.
And that's so beautiful. So Ayurveda, for those who may not be very familiar with it, it's kind of known as a sister science to yoga, right?
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. So when I was doing my 300-hour teacher training, I got to do a weekend of Ayurveda. So very, very surface level, but I just thought it was so fascinating. So for people who may not be familiar with Ayurveda, how would you kind of begin to explain it to somebody?
Yes. So it is an indigenous art and science. And when we look at the historical records, it has the oldest documented descriptions about medical and healing sciences known to humanity. And so if we look at then the evolution after Ayurveda and a lot of these early references, then all modern systems of medicine, including Western, Persian, Greek, Chinese, you name it, can trace its roots to Ayurveda. So I find that there is like a universal quality to how that's practiced. Now, it is traditionally from India and Southeast Asia. So just giving respect to the lands there and culture. However, it's from at least my teachers and elders and how that's been passed on to me is something that's living and applicable to everybody in the world as well. So it's extremely relevant for the modern Western woman, and it's something anybody can practice. So yeah, this natural healing science that is vast and beautiful.
That's so beautiful. And you had mentioned that there's some pretty unique ways that Ayurvedic medicine can actually help to support women's health and hormonal balance, right? Through mindful approaches. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I feel like hormonal balance in general, especially in regard to women's health, is kind of like this great unknown, at least in the West, or at least the women that I see all the time in the flood of cases, just seeking so much support and having unresolved health issues and chronic pain and debilitating PMS, infertility, you name it. And I'll see it. And I just kept wondering, why is this not being addressed in a way that's really truly serving women and helping them to thrive, because that's what Ayurveda really says at the heart of its tenet, that it's kind of like your birthright to be happy and healthy. And we do that in a very unique way. Ayurveda looks at people with a very individualized lens. And so I found these teachings in Ayurveda around women's health and hormonal balance to have been intact for thousands of years and to really work. And so just doing that for myself, and then also replicating this for other women in a highly customized Ayurvedic way, and many other tools as well, to truly get my women slowly and steadily back to long-term sustainable healing, and for, even loving their hormones. So there's so many teachings, and I think that it's such a mindful approach at the heart of Ayurveda. So, teaching women more about themselves and self-awareness, and then learning about what specific foods and herbs, types of exercise, lifestyle practices are supportive for their situational doshic or health balance, and then helping to correct that over time. So, just supporting them to thrive as much as possible.
I love how you said that you're supporting them over time, because I don't know about you, but most of the women that I work with these days, they come to me because they've tried all the quick fixes. They've tried all the 3-step approaches and all the, oh, do this, do this. And they're kind of tired of those magic pills and those quick fixes. They're looking for long-term sustainable results. They want something that can last a lifetime, and they're ready and willing to make the commitment to themselves to build that self-awareness and to develop these skills that can last for a lifetime to really lead to this improved health and well-being. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that it's a long-term approach. And, of course, Ayurveda is not a quick fix, but I just thought that was fascinating that you mentioned that.
Mm. Yes, I very much agree. And that's what so many women are looking for as well, and often are very frustrated and lost and confused coming in after they tried different things they thought would work and they ended up not, or they had all these horrible side effects along the way. And so that's something I really try to avoid. And again, Ayurveda is a system of natural healing that talks about and respects this long-term vision for health, and ideally preventive health in the long term after we get out of the acute phase. So I found that so refreshing, and it is such a good match for me personally. That's what I was looking for over 10 years ago when I started exploring Ayurveda really in depth. And then a couple of years after that, doing it professionally. So I see that a lot of women will come in and be like, yeah, I've tried this, and maybe for like 5, 10, 15 years. And we're looking at healing from the inside out with Ayurveda. And so it's not like a symptomatic approach. With that said, I do see a lot of incredibly miraculous, like transformative results happen in a short amount of time, but not everything. Nobody can do it all at once. And so I need to give yourself at least 2 to 3 months of trying these new things over time. And then you feel like you have done the work, that you've achieved something, and nobody can take that away from you. So it's so empowering.
Yes, definitely. So you had mentioned women's hormonal imbalances. So if, say somebody, say that I am experiencing symptoms, but I don't know I have a hormonal imbalance, how might that manifest in my day-to-day life?
Yeah, well, I feel like for a lot of people, we just normalize the imbalances, and we may not even be aware that they're an imbalance until we start to dig deeper, or to start working with the practitioner. And for example, PMS symptoms is something you hear all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just supposed to be in a lot of pain, having cramping and bloating and feeling yucky for several days, and going into this dark hole. I'm like, I don't normalize that. Those are different imbalances, and that's what Ayurveda says as well. And so, yeah, that might be the norm. That doesn't mean it's okay, or that that's imbalance. And so some things I feel have to get worse until we really start to listen to them. And it had to for me as well. So it might be oh yeah, I have some discomfort in my abdomen, something where it's really acute pain starts to get our attention. And so however that's showing up for you on an individual level. So I see a lot of common hormonal imbalance symptoms like be intertwined with insomnia, with IBS, with chronic fatigue, with depression, anxiety. And these are very common, modern health concerns. And I often find that if we don't bring in a hormonal balance piece to this, we're not going to get those long-term results.
No, I think I think that makes so much sense.
For me, when I started diving into this healing science, I was totally captivated. And I'd been studying yoga for about 10 years. And I remember feeling like, like, is there ever going to be a moment like where I'll plateau, or what if there's something like I don't know the answer to? Well, 10 years later, over 10 years now, with Ayurveda is a huge part of my personal life and lifestyle. It's opened so many doors. I'm never bored. I feel like there's always something. And I'm reminded so often of Dr. Law, this incredibly renowned Ayurvedic physician who founded the Ayurvedic Institute. And he'd often say, it's so much better to be confused and think that you are than think that you're not confused and you still are. So that's kind of how I feel about Ayurveda. Like, it's just it's just like lifelong learning. We keep going back to it at different times in our life. And hopefully it stays incredibly interesting and vitalizing for people forever.
And I love how you share your own personal journey, because I feel like for many of us who support others on their path, we're supporting them on a path that we're familiar with, that we've walked ourselves. And based on everything that we've learned and everything that's helped us, we are able to guide and support them. But at the same time, how it's a very personalized approach. It's not a one size fits all approach. It's not a, do these 5 steps and you'll be miraculously cured, but it's a personalized approach based on our own personal journeys that we can use as a resource to help guide and inspire and empower other women on the same path.
Yes, truly. And I hold group support circles. This is a private invitation for women that are doing my women's holistic health packages, or been working together for a long time. And I also do public group community classes too. And we always everybody's so different every single time. And there's these universal commonalities too. We're like, wow, like I can relate so much to what you're saying. And it just helped open up my own process by what you offered along your healing path. So I feel like it's both. It's like this amazing paradox. It's like we're so unique and different, and then we also have so much common ground.
Yes. It's all about that community connection, the universal connection to all beings. We're all the same. We're all connected. We're all united. And it's fascinating how we can learn and grow from each other, and just how these practices like yoga, like mindfulness, like Ayurveda can support us on these journeys and support us in coming together in community to learn more. And I loved how you said that, over time you've gotten deeper and it's become a part of your daily life. Whereas at the beginning, I don't know, when I first started practicing yoga, at first I was like, oh, I'd take a class once a week. And then as I started learning more, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to keep going. And the more I learn, the more I want to learn. Like, I'm the same as you, as in the sense that I feel like I will never get bored. I feel like I'll never consider myself an expert, because there's always so much more to learn, but I've got that sense of curiosity about the practice. And it seems like your Ayurvedic experience and your journey has been the same way.
Yes. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I resonate with that.
So you had mentioned that you work with herbs as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because we started out talking about nature. And so how herbs and herbal practices can help support you in this Ayurvedic approach.
Yes. So and thing I'm so passionate about with herbs, and in a lot of indigenous languages, it can translate, or plants in general, to the ones that take care of us. So it's part of like the heart of Ayurveda and this holistic system is to include herbology. And there's very specific herbs used in Ayurvedic medicine, but then there's also like an Ayurvedic philosophical explanation of how to use herbs from other traditions, like are they more healing or cooling, like are they going to increase or decrease vata, etc. And so I find that even just a little bit of herbal medicine integrated in one's lifestyle, is just starting out, makes a huge difference. So we're part of nature. We're not separate from it. If we increase more phytochemicals in our body through herbs that are very healing. I just find amazing things happen. So, those classic ones you may have heard of, turmeric is an Ayurvedic herb, and cumin, coriander, fennel are used a lot. And there's just so many ways to bring them in like a very mindful way to help you thrive with health, but also increase any other practices you may have. Like if you're a yogi, I find a lot of my yoga teachers say they can go deeper with their practices. And if you're in less body pain, maybe you can meditate longer and just open up in other ways.
I think it's so fascinating how this mind body, these mindfulness practices and these holistic well-being practices, they spill over into other areas of our life. Like you just mentioned, like you don't think about that as a potential benefit. You're looking for relief from a specific concern, but then down the road, you find that it's enhanced your overall well-being and you're finding so much more satisfaction in other areas of your life as well.
Yes, truly. I know for me, when I used to do yoga, like group classes once or twice a week on vacation, I did that for a long time until there was a very challenging time in my first graduate school program. And I was like, if I don't do yoga every day, like, it's not going to work very well. And I remember feeling like that was a shift for me. Like when things are more challenging, I increased my yogic practice, and then I couldn't go back. If I missed a day, I noticed. And for me, it's like that with Ayurveda as well, where like it just brings so much more natural mindfulness in. And I'm like, okay, if I eat on the fly now and I don't chew my food slowly, don't feel happy when I'm eating, I'm like, oh, I don't feel right. And I want to get back to that place of more mindfulness again.
I'm with you on that. I can tell the difference, especially like you said, it all starts with that self-awareness. And once we build that self-awareness, it's so much easier for us to sense when we're not functioning in our optimal state versus, kind of going back to some of these old habits or patterns that we tend to fall back into when we get busy or when we get stressed out. And so I just think that that's so fascinating.
Yes, Julie. And I think another thing I realized over time, and like there's all these different I was like, when I first started Ayurveda, I was like desperate for like feeling better in a lot of ways, having more stability. Okay, then getting that, and then looking at maintenance and preventive health. And I just noticed like it's such a nice buffering for things not to even snowball in the first place. Like having those things set in my lifestyle, it's like, okay, well, I don't even start to spiral as much. I'm able to nip things in the bud and realize that I'm starting to get anxious or decentered, and then I know what to do. So it's just increased my quality of life so much.
Well, and it comes up a lot, but I talk a lot about how, this mindfulness is a muscle and it takes time, but you can develop it with practice. And it sounds like it's been the same way with your experience with Ayurveda.
Totally. Yeah, I think like so many things, the more you do it, the more of an unconscious habit it becomes. And it's kind of just like part of who you are. And I mean, I love all of the steps of it, going from like the unconscious old habits to trying to change that. I've heard, there's many theories, but like there could be 4 different steps there. Next, it's like I consciously looking at the old habit. And then I want to consciously look at the new, more purposeful, mindful habit. And that can be really challenging to kind of stay there. And then eventually it's this unconscious, beautiful new habit. And Ayurveda has helped me with that, to be a bridge of like the things that I used to struggle more with. Like, okay, in theory, I like this, but it's just not happening, right? And so just being able to break it down into like a way that was sustainable for me and made sense and was like practical, and then just applying that over time. And now there's so many things. Yeah, I can't even imagine how I used to function.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing once you start feeling better and you look back at how far you've come from where you started out. Like I feel like we progress over time. It's not like black and white, but over time, as you look back, like when I look back on my life a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's been this huge, tremendous shift that, at the time, I don't know that I could have seen the outcome of how magical it would be, how amazing I would feel on a day-to-day basis because I was in the space of struggling. And so, just this reminder that it's one step at a time, like you were saying, that self-awareness, looking at your habits and making that mindful choice to make a small shift in the right direction. Those small shifts, those small changes build upon each other so that over time it becomes a part of your lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. And initially, I didn't realize how much more community that it would build for me as well, which I think is very helpful as we navigate life, having that conscious community and just kind of, attracting more people embodying and striving for mindfulness, and that life is less challenging, but that just made it a lot more supportive and smooth for me. And I just find that's kind of inherent in our Ayurvedic community is you can do anything else. I've had so many other things open up because of Ayurveda as like a jumping off point for a lot of other dreams and activities. It just having that like a refreshing reminder by just watching other people and like having this conversation with you and saying like, oh, like you're exuding such mindfulness and talking about things, like it helps me as well, like prioritize that and keep up those practices.
Yes, I love our community, and it's so empowering to me, enlightening to me, that when I go to these community events like the sound baths or the workshops that are hosted by local teachers, it brings me into community with so many like-minded individuals, and then I learn things that I never even expected to learn. I make connections that I never, expected to make, and it just really transforms my life. It really infuses my life with light, and our community here is just so powerful, whether it's online, whether it's in person. It's just amazing to be able to connect with other like-minded people.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're both locally in the Shenandoah Valley here in Virginia. And so you had mentioned that you offer women's circles, community classes. Do you
Mhm.
want to share anything about what you have coming up, or what you might be sharing in some of those that could inspire some of our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So after like many years of listening to a lot of regular cases around struggling with hormonal balance, women's health issues, that has been the specialty for the entire of my practice. And then I just kept it adding in more specific trainings and listening to the needs. And so I would say one of the things that's regular and ongoing, if you'd like to go deeper or learn more, just like connect with other conscious women and community, is attending a complimentary 5 secrets to holistic hormonal balance class. So that has been running now for almost 2 years. And I usually do that about once a month or once every 2 months, depending on the time of year. And I have recordings available if you can't make it live. And it's just a really lovely way to start to break down what can feel like this overwhelming topic and like, some simple proven steps. We talk about Ayurveda, in more depth through the Ayurvedic lens, and then occasional community events. Like Marissa Dovis and I, who's a fellow healer in the community, we were just recently talking about offering this free tent for nursing mothers and women at the best weekend ever downtown at the Turner Pavilion. And you're just going to come have a cozy, safe space with women, and you just hang out, take a break. We wanted to do that and take shifts from like 12 to 6 in the afternoon. So do things like that, and hormone balance retreats. Go to the JMU Women in Entrepreneurship event, which is this like amazing, like every fall with lots of other women-owned businesses. So yeah, there's many ways to stay in touch, but you can also apply for a breakthrough session just for one-on-one support for like looking at that deeper clinical listening and possibilities around providing like a specific roadmap for you for what you're looking at. So yeah, be in touch, and I'd love to see you at any of those.
Yes, and you mentioned the breakthrough session, so that's something that I will definitely link to in the show notes for those who may be interested in connecting with you on that level. And you also mentioned that it's available on your website, so that's fourseasonsharmony.com. I'll also link to that in the show notes. So wow, we've covered a lot today. We talked about the grounding power of nature. We've talked about herbs and Ayurveda as a mindfulness practice, as a practice to support women's health and hormonal balance, connecting with community, and how these mindfulness practices bring us together with other like-minded individuals. If you have one final thought, something on your heart that you'd like to share with our listeners today, is there anything that's coming up for you?
I feel like just trusting yourself. Right? That's one thing, especially with women. I think we can so easy to compare or go into self-doubt or think there's still so much more on our healing journeys. And I feel like every single, what seems like tiny step is actually a very big one. So, and with that mindfulness intention, to just keep following your heart, follow your intuition, and that your body really knows what it needs, and there is healing available. So just keep going.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. This has been such an insightful conversation. And thank you all so much for tuning into the Magic Mindfulness podcast. And hopefully catch you in the next episode. All right, my friend, before I let you go, I wanted to let you know that Whitney has been generous enough to share a few resources with you. So you will find these linked in the show notes below, but you're going to find a renowned Ayurvedic rasa tea recipe for nourishing optimal hormonal balance, especially in perimenopause and menopause. You're also going to find information about her next 5 secrets to holistic hormonal balance class, along with the 4 Seasons Harmony overview of her services and intentions. So be sure to check out that link below. And again, I just had so much fun chatting with Whitney about mindfulness, yoga, and Ayurveda. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.